Hello, welcome back to TSC Talks, where I share and reflect my lived experience within the dense matrix and systemic programming, awakening through the role of parent-caregiver of loved ones affected by tuberous sclerosis complex, observing and integrating traumas and the limiting beliefs they spawn that keep us from knowing our own truth of who we are as divine beings. Through the portal of podcasting, interviews, monologues, discussions, and workshops, I share topics and tools I found relevant and worthwhile for those living with or caregiving for individuals through extremes of chronic illness. Today, my guest is Linsey Hurley. I met Linsey when we were both doing a Freedom Flash Mob dance at the Natick Mall in, Central Massachusetts last December. And our paths crossed there and then crossed again recently. She is a holistic health coach. She works with cutting edge energy healing technologies, and she's going to share with us about LifeWave X39 patches. Really great podcast. So take it away, Linsey, and thank you for listening. Hello, welcome to TSC Talks. I am here with my friend Linsey Hurley, who I met in December doing a Freedom Flash Mob at the Natick Mall with a group from the Make America Free Again group out of, I'm not sure exactly where everybody was out of, but it was really fun. And we danced together, and she contacted me a few weeks ago or so about this interesting technology that she's here to share about. But first, welcome, Linsey, to TSC Talks.
Thank you. Thanks
for
Jill.
Coming on.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Do you want to just get started and give me a little bit of your bio and your history and how, you've been led to being here now?
Yeah, this is wonderful. So I am a holistic health coach. And I guess, I have to say my story started about 40 years ago when I had a 30-year-old sister who was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer.
Wow.
She was breastfeeding her 1-year-old child, and they had a huge lump in her breast, and they said, oh, well, let's do a mammogram. But you have to stop breastfeeding if you want us to do a mammogram. Now, my understanding is a mammogram is to find a lump. So from the start, I knew something was kind of not working very well. Mm-hmm. And when you're diagnosed with stage 4, your prognosis isn't so great. But she was brought into the NIH, and they offered all kinds of wonderful, hopeful trials. And that experience just really gave me a pretty untrusting feeling towards the conventional medical system. Mm-hmm. My other sister and I started researching all kinds of alternatives for her, and we found loads of them, lots of stuff going on. This was 40 years ago, and there was a lot out there. Even without the internet, we found so much, but they keep you so in fear that you have to obey what we say. And the doctors didn't want her going outside of their study, so they discouraged her trying anything else. So it was really a difficult time, and she did pass after a couple of years. And that brought me to a whole new level of understanding of life and brought me to a spiritual place. I wanted to know where she was. So it really led my journey to alternative health and spirituality, which is really where I am now. And it's just so exciting. It's so exciting to learn about what we are. We are these brilliant, energetic beings of light. So about 20 years ago, I was involved with low-level laser therapy, and I did learn that our cells are filled with light, coherent light. And I don't know, that kind of brought me into doing business in the field of alternative healing. And I've been involved with a lot of different energy healing tools. But the latest one I found is actually so exciting. And that's what we're here to talk about today.
That's right.
I
just wanted to know what an interesting entry into I'm sorry about your sister, but I see everybody having roles, and we're all here for, as you being on the spiritual path, probably are the same mindset, what a purpose she served to launch you into this area. And you've been on this path for a while. Now I'm pretty, I being immersed in the very much forced into that box of the traditional medical system with my children, haven't, and just think there's so much fear about alternative stuff, especially when it's with kids. Just, yeah, it took me a while to really kind of start to question. So it's great to talk to someone that's been on this path for a while. And I can imagine that, yeah, just that everything that's happened in the last few years has probably brought a lot more people to you and
more fear. I mean, that's
more
what this
fear,
whole
yeah.
thing is about. The pandemic is just all keeping us all in fear and obedience and subservience, and don't think about what you are. Think about keeping yourself safe and protected and obey us. And oh my gosh,
Right, disempowerment instead of empowerment.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I always think of my beautiful sister, and I just feel like that was her greatest gift to me. And so when I do this work, I do kind of, I think of her a lot. She's still with me. She's still,
I can feel it. When you shared that was, yeah, really beautiful, even though I'm sure it was really painful.
Oh yeah.
So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for asking.
Sure. So yeah, you can launch right into it with the patches and how you got to using those. And
well, I had been working with one medical device that's very exciting. It enhances blood flow of the microvessels, and it's a technology that activates the smooth muscle tissue around your microvessels and squeezes them and gets them to move. And it enhances blood flow of the capillaries. And the capillaries is where the oxygen and nutrients are brought into the cells and where the metabolic waste is brought out. And what it does is it moves the blood. And so the blood can clean the body, nourish the body, and nourish the cells. So that's what I love about all these technologies is they don't make your body do any one thing. They just support the body's natural systems.
Yeah, that's what it seems like with these.
Right. Yeah. Because the body is this brilliant
right.
being, this brilliant thing that knows how to support itself, and it wants to heal. Its natural inclination is to heal. So if we just support it the way it wants to be supported, it will find its way to health. Mm. So this technology is really amazing, but right at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a administrative glitch with the FDA in terms of classification, and nothing to do with the device itself, just their classification, and they shut us down. Oh. And of course, right in the beginning of the pandemic, when people need that oxygen and blood.
Is that the beamer that you're
yes.
talking about? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And they shut us down. And so for 6 months, we weren't doing anything. So I just was talking to friends in the business. I've met a lot of people through that sure. company. And one of them told me about these patches. And I just instantly felt drawn to it. So what it does is it's a frequency device, and it activates your stem cells. So it's stem cell therapy, as we all know, is like the holy grail of health right now. Mm-hmm. But it's controversial, and it's very, very, very expensive and inaccessible, therefore inaccessible to most of us. Insurance won't cover it. So if you have and it's often the last ditch effort because it's so out of reach for many, that after you've tried everything else, they'll talk about stem cell treatment for, cancers and bones.
Isn't it also risky to a degree because you're forcing your body into a really jumping ahead a little bit almost by putting in?
They'll either take your stem cells out and treat them, or they will take stem cells from another source and inject them into your body. And let's say you have a hip issue, you have bone on bone in your hip, so they'll inject it, but they don't really know what they're going to do. And not a lot, 1/3 of the time it doesn't work, or it will have some other reaction. Because when something's injected into our body, we don't know how it's going to really affect our body.
Right.
They're very smart and they know a lot, but there's no guarantees. So that's why I don't like injecting anything.
Yeah.
So what this is, I have one right here on my hand. It's this patch. And it looks like a Band-Aid. In this little part here are amino acids and salt crystals and sugar crystals and water. It's very inert.
And it's not a transdermal patch. No, that's what I clarified that when I was listening to the materials, because I think that was one thing I thought, well, if people think it's a transdermal patch, but it was very clear that it's not. So
No,
go ahead.
nothing is absorbed into the body. Nothing. It's frequency. There's certain frequency infused into the patch, and it activates different reactions in the body. And so this patch was only developed 3 years ago. And let me backtrack about how
Sure.
this whole came about. So the science of this is like when you go out into the sun and you get vitamin D. We all know that, right? By getting in the sun, you get vitamin D, but there's no vitamin D in sunlight.
Right.
The sunlight, the frequency of that sunlight hits your skin, and that activates different reactions in the body that tell the brain to make vitamin D. So that's how it works. So this brilliant man, his name is David Schmidt. He's a scientist. He's a very humble and sweet and good man and brilliant. He took that idea and said, well, but if we could put different frequencies on the skin and cause other reactions, we could do some healing. So he developed a patch. He was working for the Navy SEALs, actually, the Navy, trying to develop he had been charged with trying to develop something that would help the Navy SEALs stay awake through their 30-hour missions, because they usually inject amphetamines.
I've heard that.
Yeah, and that's not good.
Right.
So he developed a patch called the Energy Enhancer, and it gave energy, and it really helped. It really worked. So, and I actually have that on right here. That the Energy Enhancer is a 2-patch system. You put one on one side and one on the other. This one's
interesting.
brown. I don't know how well it shows, but anyway.
I saw it. We saw it.
I have my 4 very young grandchildren living with me now, so I use a lot of patches.
Totally imagine.
I put that Energy Enhancer on every day to keep up with those kids.
Oh, that's great.
But so he developed that, and he brought it to the Navy was using it, and then he had the patent to it, and he brought it to a friend of his who was a coach for the UCLA women's swim team. And they used it in their competitions, and 7 out of 8 of the swimmers did better than improved their personal
PRs.
Wow. 7 out of 8 of them. So he's like, okay, we got something here. And so they've been developing and working with that for years, but that was in 2004. He's taken that technology and used it to develop other patches. Okay. There's one for sleep, one for pain, one for weight loss, one for mood, this one for energy, all different.
All based on frequency.
All frequency, activating different neurons and peptides in the body to generate these activities.
So cool. Wow.
So this one, the stem cell one, is really the holy grail, the kingpin of all of them. He just developed it 3 years ago. It's because stem cells are just so cool. They're everything. So this actually activates a GHK copper peptide, which it's also a peptide that's in the body that declines as we age. Okay. And this peptide activates collagen production. It resets over 4,000 of our genes. It reactivates your DNA, and it activates your stem cells. So incredible. Just by putting this little patch on, it's doing all that for the body. So that's why it supports people on so many levels. So that's the non-negotiable patch. I wear that every day. These other ones are for extra support.
I see.
Great. But the X39 is really the one to just, it's actually about age reversal. People who have been on this patch, many people who've been on this patch, they can do that test where they can tell where your body age is. Some people who will be 70 years old, they will test their blood, and their body actually tests at 40 years old. They will say, you have the body of a 40-year-old. And actually, I have a friend, she's 80, and she was using the patch for 6 months, and she didn't really notice a whole lot physically with herself, but she happened to have a doctor's appointment, and the doctor tested her blood and all kinds of things. And he said, Nina, you've got the body of a 50-year-old.
Whoa. I bet that was good to hear.
Yeah, so she's feeling much more empowered and energetic, and it really does help on so many levels. So that's the patch. It helps with all kinds of degenerative diseases, and because what stem cells do is wherever there's stem cells grow into any cell we want. that's why they're so abundant
Got
in
it.
babies, because babies are growing new organs, new everything so quickly.
Right.
And as we age, those decline. So if we can have new cells growing where we have a lack, where we have any part of our body, the bones or the kidney or the eyes or anywhere, if our body gets the opportunity to grow new cells there, then it will regenerate and really support people with their health.
Yeah, it sounds incredible. And I'd like to share that you sent me some patches and I am trialing it. And so far, I would say the improvements on sleep, except for last night, but that was something else. But yeah, a little more energy. I'm only a few days in, so I'm going to report back when I'm done with it, but so far so good. And I know it also mentioned a lot about inflammation. Well, I'm sure that's a side stream of the new generation of stem cells, but also just the accessibility of it is what kind of drew me to it, because I tried the AO scan and I think it's great technology, the frequency where you're sending the tones out. I don't know if anybody that's listening or will listen is familiar with that, but great program with a lot of support, but a little bit complicated, a lot to learn. And when you mentioned this and it being frequency, so how does that compare? How does that compare in any way? Do you have anything on that, like to a Healy or?
Well, I actually have the AO scan right here.
Okay. Yeah, so we're not dissing it.
It's another tool. And I have the beamer. I mean, I use them all. I just feel like right now,
wow. Yeah.
we need all hands on deck with the EMFs and 5G and the spike protein floating all around. There's so much out there that we can't see that is affecting us. And I think we really have to get through these times as strong as we can. So yeah, I'm not a hypochondriac, but I just really believe that I did go through a period I didn't mention. I went through a period of about 12 years ago where I did out of the blue develop a autoimmune disorder myself. And it was called sarcoidosis. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I've heard of that. I've heard of it.
Where granulomas accumulate in the body. And they very often it's in the lungs, and that's where they accumulated for me. And I had to just stop everything. I had no energy. I just
wow
thing. But now I look back on it and I call it my 3-year retreat, because I had 3 years of just doing nothing. And I had to quit my job, and I just trusted, spirit will take care. I don't know how, but everything turned out okay. And I did everything. And the doctors offered me steroids. And I said, will that cure me? And they said, well, no, but it's going to help your symptoms. And I just said, if you're not going to cure me, I don't want to, why bother? So again, I had to go into my bag of tricks and find more things. Mm-hmm. And I found the Kangen water. I don't know if you've talked about that there.
No, I haven't.
This is alkaline. It's a machine that you put at your tap, and it takes the water and alkalizes and ionizes it and increases the antioxidant. Okay. We could, that's another talk for another.
Wow, day. Yeah, I've heard of like distilled water. What's the other one? The other filter. I know I have a filter that filters fluoride, but I do know that water is really important. I also have a rod that I use to structure water.
Oh, it's structured. Yeah, it structures the water, right?
It structures it. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that sounds amazing.
Kangen.
So that helped you.
It did. It healed me. And that's when, but it costs a lot of money. And so that's when I realized that, well, I can stay home and stay sick and wait for insurance to pay for things that get me better and therefore never get better. Right. Or I can make an investment and go out and get a job and make money to pay for these things. So that's what
that's what you did.
Well, it got me out of my fear of investing money to get better, because the insurance industry really only pays for drugs, which don't ultimately heal us. They just suppress your symptoms. And yet,
like Band-Aids,
your symptoms are what your body's saying, help me. The symptoms themselves are not the problem. So when you have symptoms, it's like an alarm. The body's saying, you got a problem, you got to take care of me. And right. It's not you suppress the symptoms and you haven't heard the alarm really. So
yeah, and our system is just completely oriented for that. And it is organ by organ to make it even more complicated and not working together.
Right.
I sometimes just shake my head. Like, how can how do we really know? I mean, it's amazing that we know as much as we do. Like, I do have to say emergency medicine seems pretty important. And I'm not disrespecting the whole system, but
Right,
it's
exactly.
really, yeah.
But chronic disease, it's, like,
It's a nightmare. Yeah.
Or it's just going one drug to the next. And these people who have serious health conditions have a bureau full of drugs that they have to take. And how can anybody think that's really going to heal them? It's not.
Yeah.
It's just getting them through the day. And we're here to really live our lives in this body. We're not here to just get through our days. And so many people are living that way, just, making do.
Right. It's not a quality of life. And I think that what you're talking about is having a quality of life while we're,
Right.
That's awesome. And I think that I wanted to ask you, just being in this space for so long, me coming into it is different than being in it. Has it been challenging for you to, hold your ground with any outside, people, or how's that been?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes. I live in an intentional neighborhood, intentional community here. And very few of the people here, even though many of them really need these products, won't give it the time of day. They just think it's Linsey and her woo-woo stuff. And I think a lot of people look that way on all this stuff. If you're not, I'll go to somebody and say, here, I've got these stem cell patches that could maybe help you. And people say, no, I want to see what the doctor has to say. But the doctor doesn't know anything about what this is. So of course the doctor's gonna say, well, don't do that. That's woo-woo.
Right.
I mean, doctors are educated. Medical schools are funded by big pharma. So doctors are taught what drugs to give for a certain ailment. It's just a different approach. And
exactly.
You're right. I shouldn't diss the whole industry. I definitely wouldn't.
Oh, I wasn't saying that you were.
No, but I just need to be clear that I absolutely respect doctors, but unfortunately, medical schools are paid for by big pharma. So what they learn in medical schools is
it's limited.
Drugs. Yeah, they don't learn anything about diet. They don't learn about this energy technology is amazing. I mean, our bodies are just frequency machines, and they don't seem to know anything about that, even though they use those technologies in the diagnostics, in MRIs, and those are all X-rays. That's all frequency,
true,
right? But they never think to use it in healing.
Wow, I never thought of that. Yeah, it's like there's an investment to not really heal, or to not, and the spiritual piece. I really do think that we underestimate who we are and what we're here to do as divine humans.
Right. And I think about the placebo have you talked about Bruce Lipton before?
I haven't, but I know who he is. And I've listened to not a lot, but several of his videos. And I did want to mention that when I was looking over the materials that you sent, I listened to a doctor talk about her special needs daughter who had amazing increases in communication. And what else did I hear? I watched one on Parkinson's. I have a friend with Parkinson's. And I heard about macular degeneration. So all these real systemic
MS
conditions.
There's a lot of people doing really well who have reversing their MS symptoms.
Right. MS, yeah. So the potential for, I would say, special needs communities is huge for parents that are stressed out and, just worn down, and for those that are caregivers, those that are affected, probably interactions with medications. Is there any? I didn't see anything in the literature. It said
the only one they talk about is during chemotherapy.
Okay.
While you're getting your chemotherapy treatment, they recommend not using this because it can detox the chemo. It can, if you're getting chemo, you want it to work. So this could help.
Oh, you don't want to detox it.
Right. So you just wait for a day or two after your chemo is finished, and then you can use it again. It would really help with the recovery, but I've never heard of any kind of contraindication besides that one with these.
Okay.
Sometimes people have very strong reactions to it.
Very, like it works, they have a detox reaction to the actual like what it's doing in the body, maybe.
So what you do, if it's very strong, you take the patch off.
Wow.
And because it's called a retracing experience. I had that after about 2 or 3 weeks of using the patches. All of a sudden, I woke up one morning and for 2 mornings, I hated the world. I was ready to kill anybody who talked to me, looked at me. I just had such rage. I couldn't figure it out. And somebody told me, my friend who was working with me said, "You're retracing, take the patch off." And I took the patch off and I set it aside and I felt great. And about 5 hours later, I put it back on and everything was fine again. So yeah, you can have a response like that,
Sure.
but because it's just, nothing's been absorbed into the body, as soon as you take it off,
you just take it off.
Stop. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
This is so exciting. I often think about that Star Trek movie when the doctor goes back into history and just gives people a pill to cure their diabetes. I mean, I just feel
right. I just watched Star Trek last night. That's funny you bring it up. Yeah. Pretty incredible. Yeah. So if people want to find out more or get information, and I was thinking after I trial it, I'll do a little update and possibly maybe a live update and come on and see if people have questions and if anybody wants to buy them. And it is something that you have to continue to wear if you want to get the same results.
It's cumulative. And as you get more stem cells, your body will come into a better place. You can stop, but once you start seeing yourself improve, you don't want to stop. So it's a network marketing company. Mm-hmm. And what a lot of people do is once they get really exciting results, then they start promoting it just to get their product paid. But that's how I like spreading the world. And again, this is another out of the box business paradigm, which I love being involved in because
absolutely
it's independent. It's not in any system. It's not run by big pharma. It's not FDA involved.
Not run by Vanguard or BlackRock.
It's just a general wellness product is how it's categorized. So
pretty cool.
It's very cool.
We'll get this good news out there. Yeah, it was really fun to meet you and to hear about this. And I'm excited about it. I'm going to share some of the info you gave me with people, some of my relatives and stuff that I'm like lit up about it. So
great.
Yeah, I'm glad it's a lot more accessible. I was going to mention that, I've explored the urine therapy, which is amazing. And I think it's a beautiful practice, but not everybody's going to be drawn to that. And this is a lot less taxing, so to speak.
A lot less work. It's simple.
It's a little more accessible. So thanks so much, Linsey, for coming on. And I will be in touch on this. Thanks for listening. Just a note. I will be posting links in the show notes where you can get more information, order, etc. regarding these life patches. Thanks again for tuning in. Take care.